Kneel before Zod! Actually, I'd much rather kneel before Ursa, thank you very much. I'll even worship at the altar of Ursa. All hail the goddess Ursa, that beautiful Kryptonian evil woman. She could throw me around as much as she wants. I don't have issues. Shut up. You have issues. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Superman 2 Electric. Let's just do the same thing that we did in the first film, but with a lot less inspiration boogaloo. You can see why they would have shortened that title. So, yeah, this film, boy, was it fraught with issues. Yes, there's a Richard Donner cut that had some of his footage included. Let's be perfectly honest, there was no saving this movie. With all the production issues and the fact that Richard Donner was fired during production because he actually wanted to make a movie that was, good, unlike this. And Richard Lester, who would do A Hard Day's Night as well as Help, and he would later go on to do Superman 3 with Richard fucking Pryor, who's hilarious. But I don't know if he was necessarily a Superman villain. Christopher Reeve once again returns as Clark Kent / Superman. Margot Kidder returns as Lois Lane, and Gene Hackman's inclusion was from footage of Richard Donner shot. And we do have Terrence Stamp as Zod, and we do have Sarah Douglas as Ursa, who I do have to say, good grief. What a beauty she was back then. Good grief. I'm not, with respect. I mean, that is, my God. She was one of the few bright spots of this whole thing. E.G. Marshall was the president, fun fact. Ned Beatty, Jackie Cooper. This movie really felt like a simultaneous retread of the first one, and also not understand how to advance the story forward, because there's like one little plot point that is completely nullified within just a few minutes. So, yeah, lookalikes were used, by the way, because Gene Hackman was not part of this production outside of the footage that Richard Donner shot. Marlon Brando didn't get the rights, or the money from the gross that he felt that he negotiated properly. So he just decided, I'm not going to be part of this. And again, fraught with so many issues. So many goddamn issues. The credits are just a complete recap of the first one. And I'm sorry, but if you were going into a movie with 2 on the end and you have not seen the one before, you're a fucking idiot. I'm just going to say that right there. So, Tom Mankiewicz changed a lot of the stuff that, Mario Puzo wrote. And even though there was some camp, it just seemed like the tone was all over the place. None of the goofiness was earned. Yeah, there was goofiness in the Richard Donner one, but it had life and energy and enthusiasm, and that one holds up way better than this. This came out, it was released internationally in 1980 and in the U.S. in 1981, and other markets in 1981. To be perfectly honest, this looks way older, and the budget roughly was about the same. So I don't really know why in the world it was such an issue. $54 million budget, $190 million today. $14.1 million opening, which was almost double the $7.4 that the first one did. And that would be $49.8 million in today's money. $108.1 million for the U.S. Canada gross, which is down from the $134.4 because word got out that this wasn't very good. And $216.3 million worldwide. By the way, the 108 would be $382.2 million in today's money. And the aforementioned $216.3 million would be $765 million in today's money, which is down from the $300 million that the first one made. And unfortunately, the third one wouldn't do all that great. And the fourth one, The Quest for Peace, don't worry, I'll at least get to those. I don't know if I'll get to Superman Returns and Man of Steel before the new Superman comes out, but I might as well watch the classics. And there is a picture in Cooper's office of Bill Cosby. Oh boy. Ghost Dad himself. Talk about things that haven't aged well. And then we have some evil people. I'm choosing the words carefully. Some very, very bad people that are holding hostages that want to do stuff to the Eiffel Tower. Then Margot Kidder gets Eiffel Towered at one point. That is a euphemism, by the way, before anybody tries to come at me. She keeps going down the shaft while getting Eiffel Towered. I really should have chosen these words more carefully, but whatever. And Superman stops her getting shafted and Eiffel Towered. I'm just going to go nuts with that, I guess. And then after that, he sends the explosive device into space, and because of that weird laser disc thing that Zod and the crew were in, they get freed, and now they're able to float down and, go to Earth. Luther and Otis, a town drunk, get out of jail, but Otis doesn't get out of jail. He tries to, but he pulls the ladder down, and then Miss Breastmacher, as well as Luthor, manage to get away in a hot air balloon, because apparently he is around the world in 80 fucking days on Earth. This is not very good, by the way, is what I noted. And I didn't necessarily care for this film as much the few times I watched it before. But man, watching it with eyes now, as opposed to eyes back then, knowing that this film was fraught with production issues, you can fucking tell. There are so many parts where you can tell how Donner shot this thing and how Lester shot this thing. Now, even though I assume some footage from Donner was used, like, I don't know how much necessarily, I think some scenes. We go to Niagara Falls. Slowly I acted, step by step, inch by inch. I stopped this kid from falling down the goddamn falls. I'm sorry. You could produce a smarter kid than that. Like, realistically, if your kid's that stupid to go over the rail of Niagara Falls, you're raising an idiot. Just cut bait and start over. Hey, that's what Fritz ended up doing when his kid ended up touching that tongue on the trailer. Anybody who actually gets what the fuck I'm saying, you are hating me right now. Luther manages to get a sled just out of fucking nowhere and goes to the fortress. Well, actually, he floats to the Fortress of Solitude, gets a sled out. So I messed that up a little bit. And he goes to the memory bank crystals. He finds out more about who Superman is. And then he talks to Zod. He ends up talking to Zod and Ursa a little bit later on. And the big beefy guy that kind of looks like if Richard Kiel actually looked like a normal human. May Richard Kiel rest in peace. I assume he's dead. I think he is. Lois took a while to figure out that he was Superman. The only difference was the glasses. And yes, I know that's kind of part of the running gag, but they really didn't do that well with it here. So she tries to, say, oh, if you're not Superman, I'll fall in the river and I'll die. He uses laser vision out of necessity to stop or to knock a branch down to try to save her, but then he jumps in and pretends that he's all out of it to save her. And Zod and crew arrive, and they end up spooking a fisherman. Ursa fries a goddamn snake that bites her. So she's into biting, but not being bit. That's good to know. I knew a girl like that. I should call her. And it's not much of a love story. I mean, I'm sorry. Meanwhile, we have Clark and Lois doing something where they're trying to break the story about this hotel ripping off people, I think. But it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, tonally, this movie is all over the place and also has so many unfinished plot points. So many loose ends. Again, I should call that girl. But then I did find it funny where average white band is playing in a bar. Pick up the pieces, pick up the pieces. And it's a small town that they call East Houston, Idaho. It's actually this unrecognized community. It's actually East Huston, Idaho. It's about 8 hours from me. It could be 8 minutes from me, and I would never go there because fuck Idaho. Sorry if you happen to live in Idaho, but I've been there. Besides Nampa and Boise, didn't really care for much of it. A lot of bigotry out there. Why was the kid telling Zod to put his father down British? Would they get a lot of British people there in East Huston, Idaho? And Zod and co. take down the military that just happened to really show up to this little hamlet that's in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. So I don't know how in the world they managed to get there. And then they have one point where Ursa blows people down. I'm leaving that one alone right there. That's all I'm going to say. And kneel before Zod, all that classic stuff and whatnot and what have you. So, Soups is talking to his mother in the crystal, his mother in the crystal, and says, I love her and I want to be with her. Well, then you must be mortal. Step into this chamber and your powers will be taken away forever. They're not taken away forever, by the way. So they also, Zod and crew, change Mount Rushmore and break Lincoln's face. And now there's a run-in with a guy at a diner that beats him up. He can feel pain. But then he decides he made a mistake, and he goes back and he picks up a piece of kryptonite that apparently brings him back his powers. See, they just keep going all over with this thing. Like, you could watch this thing intently. You could skip past some parts on double speed, and you really wouldn't be able to fully grasp just how you'd be able to fully grasp how incompetent this is, but you wouldn't be able to fully grasp what they were trying to do. And he's yelling, "Father!" Before he grabs the kryptonite, and he's fine. Luthor shows up at the White House and basically says, "Hey, I'll tell you where Superman is. I'll tell you his secrets. Just give me Australia." And a didgeridoo, I suppose. So, the idea is that they take over the White House. Easy to do. Balsa Wood sets are getting destroyed at the Daily Planet. Kneel before Zod, all that. Superman is back, and he's back and more supery than ever. And then we get pieces of a building being thrown around because they're building the suspense. Superman has issues trying to take down these three, but does take down them in some fashion. I mean, he damages them, but he also gets damaged. I don't know. It just and there's this one point where this lady's trying to walk her kid across the street while everybody's panicking. Evidently, she doesn't recognize all the bullshit going on in front of her. That's what happens. Maybe certain people shouldn't be parents if they're going to be fucking idiots. Heavy amount of Marlboro and Coke advertising in this scene, by the way. Heavy amount. It is egregious. It's not the most egregious advertising I've seen, where you have some people that practically just hold the thing there or will put it there in front, like after they slam the drink down or they slam the snacks down and they hold it, or they make sure it's featured prominently and they rest their hand right there so everybody can see it, but you see what they're doing and they're talking about it, and they're almost practically pointing at the goddamn product. Zod basically does some laser stuff, which is just hilarious here. But then he's trying to heat up a truck and fry it, a fuel truck, but Superman uses the truck mirror to reflect it back at him. So a broken Marlboro truck, Marlboro advertisement back there. I mean, there's heavy smoking in some scenes. Smoking or non-smoking tickets, smoking please, and hands Ted Stryker the ticket. And after breaking the Coke sign, he takes off while just after the natives are getting restless, leave with your heat, but they get blown back by everybody. And then they go to the Fortress of Solitude. He throws a super cellophane wrap, which just made me bust up laughing. Just hilarious. Just a super cellophane logo wrap. And then he's able to clone himself. They're able to teleport. He's able to teleport. They even had one point where Luthor and Otis were able to teleport or reflect stuff, because why the fuck not? And Luthor is there just because Luthor tries to reason with Superman and gets information that, hey, this chamber or this area, try to lure him into this goddamn chamber. And then he betrays him by saying, "Don't go in there, it's a trap. Luthor, you poisonous snake." And then he gets trapped in the chamber. And oh, great, Superman's powers are going to get taken away for real. Oh, wait, the red light's outside where they're at, so their powers get taken. And Zod gets his hand broken and thrown down. And the bearded guy falls down because he's stupid. And apparently Lois really punched Sarah for real and actually did knock her unconscious. Probably felt terrible. I mean, she probably didn't think she was that strong, but she shouldn't kid her herself. Har, har. And then everything's fine. Luthor, I assume, vanishes into the ether for all I fucking know. And everything's fine. Lois, however, says, "Superman, we can't be together. It's kind of stuff. I know your secret, but don't have to worry. I won't tell anybody." And then they kiss, and then he erases her memory. And yeah, that's Superman 2. The fact that this is not it's such a downgrade from the first one. The fact that this is not the worst Superman movie, worst Superman sequel, is certainly going to say a lot. This is the low point so far, but believe me, the third one isn't much better, and the fourth one is abysmal. Superman Returns was what it was. Man of Steel is pretty good. I don't think I'm going to get to Batman versus Superman, because why? Why the fuck would I want to watch that? So yeah, it is what it is. Superman 2 certainly exists. It's just such a downgrade from the first. Agree, disagree what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlund. Until we meet again, happy trails to you.